Hi, I am Randy Arbinag and I am going to discuss with you speciation. But before we continue with this discussion, I would like you to ask this question. What is your favorite pet? Have you ever wondered how cool it would be if two of your favorite pets are in one body? Like for example, in my case, I love dogs and cats. I am one of the happy people if these two pets will be in one body. But the question is, would it be possible? In order to answer this, we need to remember that dogs and cats are different species. So, what is species? Species is defined as a population whose members have the potential to interbreed in nature and produce viable, fertile offsprings. This means variety of domesticated dogs. They are all the same species of dogs, even if each one looks differently. Same as with domesticated cats. All the different cat breeds are still the same species. If this is so, why do we have a huge number of different species? The answer is because of natural selection and evolution. This caused a species to be reproductive isolated. Reproductive isolation is when one group of genes becomes isolated from one another to begin a separate evolutionary history. Once separated, the two isolated populations may begin to diverge genetically under the pressure of different selective forces in different environments. If enough time lapses and differing selective forces are sufficiently great, the two populations may become so different that even if they were brought back together, interbreeding would not naturally occur. At this point, speciation is said to have taken place. What then is speciation? Speciation is defined as anything that fragments a population and isolates small groups of individuals. What are the different modes of speciation due to different modes of isolation? Speciation can be allopathic or sympatric. Allopathic or other country speciation happens when the gene flow is interrupted or reduced when a population is divided into geographically isolated subpopulations by mountain ranges, canyons, rivers, lakes, glaciers, altitude, or longitude. Speciation may arise following the crossing or creation of barriers. The definition of barrier depends on the ability of a population to disperse. For example, a canyon may create a barrier for small rodents, but not birds, coyotes, or pollen. One example of allopathic speciation is the spotted owl found in the America. So spotted owl subspecies living in different geographic locations show some genetic and morphological differences. The farther they are, the greater the differences is observed. The northern spotted owl is strikingly different from the Mexican spotted owl, although they live on the same continents. It is because they are separated geographically. In the case of the sympatric speciation or the same country speciation, this speciation takes place in a geographically overlapping populations. That means the populations are not geographically separated, but it can be due to rapid genetic changes, which alter the morphology, behavior, and habitat preferences of the individuals or species. In a sympatric speciation, various factors can limit gene flow. It can be a polyploidy, habitat differentiation, sexual selection, temporal isolation, behavioral isolation. Let's talk about the different cases of sympatric speciation. First is the habitat isolations. Two organisms live in the same area but encounter each other rarely. Two species of snakes, one is water-dwelling Thamnophis and the other one is terrestrial Thamnophis, are found in the same geographic area, but one inhabits the water while other is mainly terrestrial. So mating is impossible. The second is temporal isolation, means isolation by time. Some species may breed at different times of day, seasons, or years. Examples of these are the skunk, which breeds late winter, and the other species which breeds in the late summer. The third is the behavioral isolation. Example of these is the boobies, blue-footed boobies, which are known for their courtship behaviors. When male dances, very specific movements to attract females. Once a female selects a male, the pair remains monogamous for at least the breeding season. After mating, clutches of 2 to 3 eggs are laid directly on the ground, and both parents take turns incubating the eggs. If the female doesn't like the male, mating are impossible. The next is mechanical isolation. Closely related species may be unable to mate because of a variety of reasons. One of these is their genitalia. Different in the structure of genitalia may prevent insemination. Like for example, the case of this snail. Genital openings are not aligned, so no mating will occur. Next is gametic isolation. Sperm cannot fertilize eggs. It is very important in aquatic species through broadcast spawners, like for example in the case of the sea urchins. We can say that these isolations are called prezygotic barriers because these barriers happens before the mating of sperm and egg. Another mechanism is what we call the postzygotic mechanisms. This prevents hybrid zygotes from developing into viable fertile adults. Example is when we breed zebra and donkey and we produce zonkey. Zonkey is infertile. Another example is the hybrid rice plants. The first generation hybrids are viable and fertile. Offsprings of hybrid are feeble or sterile. How quickly do new species form? The only way to discover how fast evolution has taken place during the Earth's history is to measure the rate at which new species appear in the fossil record. We must conclude that evolutionary change may be fast or slow, or anywhere in between. Many fossil species existed for millions of years with very little change and without giving rise to new species. Then, in a short period of time, which in geological terms may mean thousands of years, related but different species appeared. Sometimes these new species replaced the older one, and sometimes the old and new species coexisted at least for a while. This stop and go pattern of speciation is called punctuated equilibrium. The fossil record includes examples of species that appear suddenly, persist essentially unchanged for some time, and then apparently disappear. Niels Eldridge and Stephen John Gould coined the term punctuated equilibria to describe periods of apparent stasis punctuated by sudden change. We can see now how it probably comes about. A widespread species exists unchanged for a long time under influence of stabilizing selection. Eventually, one of its small isolated populations evolves into a new species with a particularly successful co-adapted gene complex. This new species spreads rapidly, either driving the parent speciation to extinction or existing with it. With that, I'm Sarani Binag. I hope you learned something new about speciation. See you on the next lesson. Goodbye.